In the memory banks of human history, few stories are as compelling as the transformation of Yahweh, an ancient regional deity, into the omnipotent God of monotheism. This journey reveals a deity whose origins are deeply rooted in the polytheistic traditions of the ancient Near East, and whose evolution reflects the complex interplay of culture, politics, and theology. Yahweh's story begins not as the solitary, all-powerful God of the Hebrew Bible, but as one among many deities in a pantheon. In the late Bronze and early Iron Ages, Yahweh was a tribal god, worshipped alongside other divine beings. He was not yet the cosmic force that would later dominate Western religious thought. Instead, he was a corporeal being, understood to have a human-shaped body, complete with male anatomy. This anthropomorphic conception of Yahweh was not unique. It was a common feature of ancient Near Eastern religions, where gods were often depicted as having physical forms, engaging in human-like activities, and even participating in sexual acts. Yahweh's rise to prominence was a gradual process, shaped by the political and social dynamics of the ancient world. In the early stages, Yahweh was part of a larger divine family, with a father, El, the high god of the Canaanite pantheon, and a mother, Asherah, a goddess associated with fertility and motherhood. Yahweh's ascent to the top of the divine hierarchy was not a sudden revelation, but a slow, deliberate process of theological and political maneuvering. One of the most striking aspects of Yahweh's early characterization is his physicality. Unlike the abstract, incorporeal God of later Jewish and Christian theology, the ancient Yahweh had a body. He was a God who could be seen, touched, and even smelled. The Hebrew Bible is replete with references to Yahweh's body, his feet, his hands, his face, and even his genitals. In the book of Ezekiel, for example, the prophet describes seeing Yahweh seated on a throne with his loins exposed, a detail that underscores the deity's physicality. This corporeal understanding of Yahweh was not merely a metaphorical device. It was a reflection of the ancient worldview, where gods were intimately connected to the material world. Yahweh's physicality also extended to his interactions with humans. He was a god who ate, drank, and even smelled the sacrifices offered to him. The biblical text frequently describes Yahweh as being pleased by the sweet aroma of burnt offerings, a sensory detail that highlights the deity's connection to the physical world. This anthropomorphic conception of Yahweh was not unique to the Israelites. It was a common feature of ancient Near Eastern religions, where gods were often depicted as participating in human-like activities. But Yahweh's journey from a corporeal, tribal god to the transcendent God of monotheism was not a straightforward one. It was a process marked by conflict, negotiation, and reinterpretation. As the political landscape of the ancient Near East shifted, so too did the theological understanding of Yahweh. The destruction of the Jerusalem temple by the Babylonians in the 6th century BCE was a pivotal moment in this transformation. In the wake of this catastrophe, the exiled Israelites were forced to grapple with the question of why their God had allowed such a disaster to occur. The answer, for many, was that Yahweh had abandoned them because of their failure to worship him exclusively. This theological shift marked the beginning of a radical form of pantheon reduction. In this new understanding, Yahweh was no longer one God among many. He was the only God. Other deities, once worshipped alongside Yahweh, were demoted to the status of idols or angels. Asherah, Yahweh's former consort, was recast as a false god, and her worship was condemned. This process of theological consolidation was not merely a religious reform. It was a political act designed to unify the Israelites under a single, exclusive deity. Yet even as Yahweh's status as the sole God was solidified, his physicality remained a point of contention. The later biblical texts, particularly those written during and after the Babylonian exile, began to downplay Yahweh's corporeal nature. The idea of a God with a body, who could be seen and touched, was increasingly at odds with the emerging theological emphasis on Yahweh's transcendence. This tension is evident in the biblical text, where references to Yahweh's body are often accompanied by euphemisms or poetic language that obscures his physicality. The evolution of Yahweh from a corporeal, tribal God to the transcendent God of monotheism is a testament to the dynamic nature of religious belief. It is a story of adaptation and reinvention, shaped by the shifting political, social, and cultural landscapes of the ancient world. In the end, the story of Yahweh is not just the story of a God. It is the story of humanity's quest to understand the idea behind myth. As we continue to explore the origins and evolution of Yahweh, we are reminded that mythology is not a fixed, immutable entity, but a reflection of the ever-changing human experience.